Thank you so much for joining us. Farhan Siddiqui, you are a professor at Quaid I Azam University in Islamabad, Pakistan, and you've done some really interesting writing on the phenomenon of the blasphemy laws in Pakistan and what this means for politics and coexistence in your country. So I'd love to talk to you a bit about that. And what's interesting, as you've written, is that these blasphemy laws have been on the books for decades, but since 2017, 2018, they've become co-opted by political elites in very extreme ways. So I wonder if you could tell us, what is blasphemy? How do you define it, and what are the consequences for blasphemy today in today's Pakistan? How has this evolved?
Thank you so much for having me. So, blasphemy laws are basically a set of legal injunctions that were instituted in Pakistan's penal code in the 1980s under the military regime of General Ziaul Haq. And these were basically a colonial legacy, which were introduced by the British colonialists in the 1980s. But what Ziaul Haq did in the 1980s is to introduce three new sections to the penal codes, which explain what blasphemy or blasphemy politics in Pakistan is actually all about. So the first new amendment was Section 295C, which basically speaks about defiling or desecrating or ridiculing or dishonoring the personage of the final prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, and anyone who's accused of doing it is liable for a death penalty or a life imprisonment. So that's one. A second amendment that was introduced is Section 295B, which speaks about any individual defiling, desecrating the Holy Quran. And the sentence for that again is life imprisonment. And Section 298A, which basically expands the scope of holy personages to include and speak of the Prophet's wives, his companions, his family relatives, also the caliphs, and the maximum penalty or imprisonment for anyone found ridiculing the holy personages is again put at 10 years. So, under the British colonialist, the framing of these laws was such that they did not specifically target any religious group or did not mention any religious community. But in the 80s, when these amendments were introduced in the Pakistan Penal Code, they were specifically targeted or aimed at the Ahmadis, a minority sect which originated in the late 19th century in colonial times in Indian Punjab, where the founder of the movement was basically he claimed prophethood. And as you know, that in Islam, prophet, the firm belief is of the Prophet Muhammad being the final prophet, and that's a red line that no one can transgress. And that, so to speak, started, the entire politics of blasphemy, and the public perception of the Ahmadis being a sect who are non-Muslims. So one of the questions, as you rightly mentioned, and which I spoke also about at the Weatherhead Center, uh, tries to answer this question of why, despite the fact that we had these blasphemy laws since the 1980s, that we witness only in recent times, that this issue has entered the electoral arena, that it's now part of mainstream politics, that it has been incessantly politicized, that there's a new party, religious party now, which advocates this issue publicly. And also the mainstream parties, the federal parties, are all impacted, affected, by the blasphemy discourse. So it's at the core of Pakistani society today. So if you compare that with the Taliban, the threat of the Taliban, which affected Pakistan during the war on terror years, even today. So the Taliban were always at the geographical periphery of Pakistan. Uh, Taliban are not electoral actors; they do not participate in elections. But blasphemy and the party, the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, which advocates the blasphemy discourse, So it's right at the core, at the heart of Pakistani society. And that has grave consequences because we've seen episodes of mob lynching, of vigilante violence, of organized crime, of organized criminal networks who are now making use of these blasphemy laws in order to carry out their politics.
Well, you mentioned this party, the TLP, the Tehreek-e-Labik party from Pakistan, as being a central actor here. And I think in some of your writings, you liken it to a sort of ethnic entrepreneur, like they're weaponizing this issue. Certainly at your wonderful presentation at Harvard at the Weatherhead Center this past spring, we had the opportunity to talk about that. So can you tell us a little bit more about that party? Where did they come from and how did they latch on to this issue?
Yeah, so the context of why blasphemy politics, has become so manifest, has become so resonant in Pakistani society, has to do in the early 21st century, 2005, with the publication of the Danish cartoons in the Danish newspaper depicting Prophet Muhammad, and that caused a sense of moral injury, for Muslims across the world, and that's where you know. These new religious preachers became more invested in the idea of protecting the dignity and honor of the prophet, which they thought was now under threat from the West. And that was combined in the Pakistani case with some political actors who wanted to undo the blasphemy laws, or who tried to bring in a more intelligent debate about what the blasphemy laws do in the sense that they are used to, settle personal scores, that they are used in order to, accuse people when they have property disputes, for example, with each other. So there was this one governor of Punjab who actually made a lot of statements against the blasphemy laws, against the blasphemy politics. And the issue at the time, and this is 2010, was about a Christian woman who was accused of blasphemy under Section 295C, which carries a mandatory death penalty. And the governor of Punjab made the case that he would do, or he would find justice for this Christian woman, Asiya Bibi, and that he would see that she gets justice. And then he was assassinated by his security guard. And that's where, for the first time in recent years, that we see that people are owning up or taking a collective ownership, of the blasphemy discourse, and that's where the TLP originates. So under a new, this new religious preacher by the name of Khadim Hussain Rizvi, he comes up. He's an excellent orator. So he combines verses of Islam and Sharia with Iqbal's poetry bordering on pan-Islamism, and he speaks in a vernacular language, which actually appeals to the public. So there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of sentiments, there's a lot of social psychology involved, and that is where people, take up the idea that, this is what is important in terms of what it means to be a Muslim in Pakistan. So I think what the TLP does best is to redefine what it means to be a Pakistani Muslim, which is a Muslim in Pakistan is a person who believes in the absolute finality of the Prophet and who's committed to protect the blasphemy laws and to oversee or to take any actions which need to be taken in order to protect these laws.
Well, this is fascinating and disturbing, and I wonder if you could at least speculate about why this works. One would think that these parties like the TLP would only use such rhetoric and use these approaches if they derive some utility from it, if it actually delivers for them, builds their support, consolidates their support, increases their vote share, whatever it might be. So why do you think this works? Does it tap into something that really appeals to people, or is there some way that they're manipulating rhetoric, or is it too risky to oppose? Why do you think this actually has popular support to the point where it's building their electoral fortunes?
Yeah, so the TLP emerged as the fifth largest party in terms of votes received in the 2018 general elections. And it was the fourth largest party, so it improved its electoral performance in the elections last year, where it emerged as the fourth largest party in terms of votes received. And it's a combination of all the factors that you identify in your question. So blasphemy politics, for example, in Pakistan, I think it can be understood through the lens of majoritarianism, in which the majority fears a minority. So if I speak in terms of numbers, so the Ahmadis only constitute 0.06% of the total population of the country, about 500,000 in numbers, compared to Muslims who make up 97% of the population. So there is and the kind of politics that they play out at the cultural level, it's a politics of hate, of differentiation, of dehumanization, of fear. So this assassination of the Punjab, governor, was something which again, highlighted the fact that there are these enraged individuals, because the bodyguard who assassinated the governor did not belong to any party. He just, made cause out of the fact that he listened to speeches on social media, on popular platforms, and that he was influenced, and he was committed, to the objective of defending the, dignity and status and honor of the Prophet, which he thought was under threat. So I think what the TLP does best is to combine this politics of fear, of the use of violence, and majoritarianism itself, about redefining what it means to be a Muslim in Pakistan. And again, and that has contributed to their electoral and their political success for now.
And I've noticed in some of your writing that not only have the number of arrests for alleged blasphemy violations spiked in the last several years, but that many of the people that are targeted with this are Muslim themselves. It's not non-Muslim minorities or other minorities that are disproportionately targeted. It's actually the majority group that seems to be targeted. You've also mentioned that there's a so-called, maybe this is an idiomatic phrase, blasphemy business group that's involved in online in particular in targeting people. So how is this playing out, and why is it that so many people targeted are from the majority community?
Yeah, that's a great question, because majoritarianism in Pakistan is counterintuitive. Because when you mention majoritarianism, you speak about differentiation, you speak about polarization. But the majority of people accused of blasphemy, according to a report that was undertaken by a local think tank from 1947 till 2021, tells us that 73% of the people accused of blasphemy were actually Muslims, which explains the fact that this law has been used to settle personal scores. That these laws have been used in terms of when people have property disputes with others, they'll accuse the other person of blasphemy to, claim their property. And the National Commission of Human Rights, this is a statutory body of the government which deals with, human rights violations in the country. So it carried out its own survey in 23 and 24. And strikingly, it found in November 2023, that of the more than 300 people under trial for blasphemy in jails across Pakistan, almost 96% were Muslims. So the explanation of why this is happening is because, again, there's an organized network. So when laws are incentivized, these also become a point for people to engage in rent-seeking behavior. So there's an entire trail, and now this has come out in the public. So this was also deliberated in the Islamabad High Court recently. So a number of, brave journalists and, lawyers and activists, they came out openly, and they put news out there that there's an organized crime network which traps people through WhatsApp, through Facebook, and these are basically people of the younger generation, to extort money, and not only to extort money and make a business out of it, but also to keep the issue alive. So the more prosecutions, the more accusations, the more convictions you have, the more this issue remains alive in the public sphere. So there's deliberate, conscious attempt, and the people involved are basically, again, these are lawyers as part of this blasphemy business group. So these are lawyers, police officials, some people from the investigation, agencies. So they're all combined together in this network. So now, after this case was brought up in the Islamabad High Court, so the court has ordered the creation of a commission that can look into the cases where these people were trapped, and their number in the last year crossed 700. So it's pretty horrible at that. Yeah.
Great. Well, I want to thank you so much for speaking with us about this. It's clearly a very important topic and devastating to many people whose lives have been touched and affected by this, and also devastating for Pakistani politics,
Yeah.
being that this is a multi-ethnic society and people have to learn to live together. But that's precisely why we're doing the work we do at the Global Scholars Network on Identity and Conflict. It's wonderful to have you as an integral part of it. And thank you for sharing your insights with us here.
No, thank you so much. It was great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.